I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
No, I'm not mad as hell. I'm happy to have watched this movie a couple times in the last couple of weeks. It's Network, 1976, Sidney Lumet the director, great cast, and a prescient, prophetic movie. Let's talk about what this movie is about, why I still think it's great, coming up next. The subject of Network, which was a famous movie when it came out, lots of criticism, lots of awards, is TV networks. And while that may be dated, there was an older media landscape depicted in this movie. 4 major networks, and they dominate, and then there's a rating share. This movie, I think, is still applicable to pretty much any video technology, heck, any internet technology today, from TikTok to Twitter, you name it. This movie still works in certain ways. So even though it's 50 years old, I still think it's really interesting. It talks about populist politics, it talks about media control, it talks about business management and marketing, whether those are dominant or whether other things in life, other aspects of life could be dominant. And then one of the movie's major concerns as a satire is if people making media become more amoral, to what lengths will they go to in order to get ratings, to get profits, to get money, power, influence, you name it.
For God's sakes, Diana, we're talking about putting a manifestly irresponsible man on national television.
For those reasons, the movie still works, and because the satire was over the top, way over the top at the time, and less so, in fact, by the 1990s, this movie looked like it was completely accurate in its predictions. But still, some of the things in this movie might strike you, and certainly me, as outrageous.
I'm going to blow my brains out right on this program a week from today.
So this video will give a few spoilers, but not too many, but I do have to spoil the ending. There's just no way to get around to talking about how this movie is great without talking about the ending and what happens in it, including sensationalistic things. Anyway, the movie is about a TV news anchorman named Howard Beale, played wonderfully by Peter Finch, who died before he received an Academy Award for this role, and he's going to be fired. He's got a 2-week notice. He goes on air and he says he's going to commit suicide. He's so broken up and depressed. Really? You're going to commit suicide on TV? Yeah, this actually happened in real life, and it happened in other forms of life where assassinations like Jack Ruby killing Lee Harvey Oswald on TV happened. But this turns into a stunt, and Howard Beale almost immediately fired, but then they bring him back on TV and use his popularity, which grows after he makes this move, to sort of give him a limelight, and it becomes more and more either touched by God and telling the truth about politics in America today, or he becomes crazier and schizophrenic or something, or both.
The voice said to me, I want you to tell the people the truth. Not an easy thing to do because the people don't want to know the truth.
So the TV executives at UBS, the 4th major media company, take Howard Beale and they give him his own show, The Howard Beale Show, and he goes on there and rants like a crazy, cranky old man, but people love to watch this, and he comes up with this line, because of all the degeneracy in the 1970s, he comes up with this line, I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
How do you feel?
Now, Beale becomes a voice of the people, but it's a dumb rage. He's not asking them to do anything. He's not asking them to start revolutions. And what we see in this movie is a lot of TV network executive talk, led by Robert Duvall, his main character, and also Faye Dunaway's character, as this new amoral, pragmatic, realistic executive who wants ratings at all costs. She'll put terrorist attacks on TV in order to get ratings.
The way I see the series is, each week we open with an authentic act of political terrorism taken on the spot and in the actual moment.
For example, I love this bit in the movie. She's going to have a Mao Zedong hour. These sort of communist, Marxist radicals are going to go on and do crazy things like terrorist attacks, in fact, and the network's going to get ratings. But that means, and that's what this movie is getting at, that everybody going on TV and it becomes an entertainer, and their message is co-opted by TV networks who use them for advertising and for money. At least one of the things you could get out of this movie, and another is that sensationalism drives ratings, something we all know using the internet, where especially the negative emotions of fear and anger are used to get clicks, to get likes, to get follows, something that this movie already is talking about, and just with the 4 major TV networks, one of them being invented, UBS, and news anchormen really being entertainers, not information givers, not journalists, they're entertainers. That's what Howard Beale is turned into, even though he himself may either be crazy or touched by God and not think that he is an entertainer, but the executives and a lot of viewers make him into just an entertainer which was either fun to watch or they get money out of them or both. And this, of course, happened where TV newscasters really do become celebrities, and their celebrity is used, and they can profit from it. And of course, this movie is talking about sensationalism in all media. I read Roger Ebert's review of this movie. He actually has a great movie essay about it, and he says, well, it's Jerry Springer, crazy daytime talk show stuff, or WWF wrestling, and that sort of sensationalism made the O.J. Simpson trial in the 1990s. But really, anything that is clickbaitish, anything that is outlandish, anything that strikes you as morally wrong is of use to media-savvy people, influencers who are doing their own thing on platforms like me, or big platforms or big media organizations. They may use sensationalism for their gain. Now, the Howard Beale stuff in this movie is maybe half to two-thirds of the movie, but there's also a plot or subplot involving William Holden, Max Schumacher, sort of mid-level TV executive, and then the new kid on the block, as it were, Faye Dunaway playing Diana Christensen. They're having a love affair. It splits up Max Schumacher's family. He's the older / middle-aged guy who remembers the good old days of TV, but now what we're seeing in this movie is Diana Christensen's new amoral way of throwing anything on the TV so that she can get ratings. And so you have this sort of clash of types. The old, wiser, moral voice, played by William Holden, and this new, pragmatic realist, played by Faye Dunaway. They're in love, but their love cannot last. One thing I don't like about this movie is the William Holden character, is his moral uppityness. He gets to speechify, even though he's been a scumbag and left his wife, and he's ditched his wife and family, he gets to upbraid Diana Christensen for morally, for being, unreasonable about, she doesn't love anybody, she only cares about ratings and money and so on. I don't like those sort of speeches in the movie by the Holden character. I find despicable himself, but I bring that criticism to the movie, even though I think the movie does not criticize him. Everybody else in the TV executive world is kind of ratings driven and money driven, including Robert Duvall's Frank Hackett character, who yells a lot, is anxious a lot, but there is a layer of power above him. This movie does depict the Arthur Jensen character played by Ned Beatty in only like a 5-minute turn, which he got Oscar nominated for. He does a spectacular job of playing a higher order executive, I think the owner of the network, who tells Howard Beale the truth about reality, well, his truth about reality. And then Howard Beale says,
I have seen the face of God.
So it's interesting in this movie to me that when Howard Beale's ratings start to tank as he starts to talk about Arthur Jensen's talking points that he's kept on air, that Arthur Jensen, in fact, doesn't care about money as much as these mid-level executives do. The ideology, the talking points are more important to him. But these mid-level executives, what do? They plan to assassinate, which is murder, Howard Beale.
Well, what would you fellas say to an assassination?
And thus you have the very end of the movie in which, yep, Howard Beale is assassinated on air, murdered. But the last shot is fantastic because you see 4 different TV screens with a voiceover narrator. As if the commercials are trumping the morality of the murder, and that all is entertainment itself, that TV has been swallowed and swamped by entertainment, which is dollar-oriented. And in a way, the Ned Beatty character already said that, the almighty dollar, really the currency structure of the world, is what determines who gets what and is the power of the world. He claims that there's no more nations, it's only, corporations and money running the world. Whether that's entirely true or not, I'm not sure. They don't have any critique of government in this. Of course, in the real world, the FCC does rule and has ruled for a long time. The TV networks telling them what they can and can't do and censoring them. But nevertheless, I think this movie is very funny at times, very bitter, very sarcastic, sometimes maudlin in its depiction of the love affair between the two main characters of Dunaway and Holden. I want to say a few things about the way this movie is made. Director Sidney Lumet, who did 12 Angry Men, Dog Day Afternoon, a number of fantastic movies. In Dog Day Afternoon, which he did before this, he does have a few scenes where he talks about media influence and sort of how that's affecting the crime and the hostage situation in that movie. Here he goes all out with media influence. There was a prior movie by Elia Kazan called A Face in the Crowd. You should watch it, starring Andy Griffith, which has similar kinds of flavors to it, as well as Ace in the Hole by Billy Wilder. And both of those movies in the 1950s really take to task journalism turned sensationalistic, money grubbers. But here the all-out satire is on TV becoming a religion, TV even becoming godlike, and you'll see a lot of sort of church talk in this movie, from Howard Beale saying he's been touched by God, to him ascending to Valhalla, to him seeing the face of God, and the cathedral-like window behind him. It's as if TV has become the church, which is the dogma of the American people, and the rulers of the TV networks, can kind of tell their parishioners, which are the viewers, what to think and how to act. Lumet's direction is totally awesome in this movie. I absolutely love it. I think a lot of his blocking is fascinating. The settings he puts around characters in certain moments. You should notice as well, this movie has no score whatsoever. The score might influence or color this movie too much. So he lets this movie, the visuals just play out as well as the dialogue. So you get no score. A fascinating choice for this movie. What would it have sounded like with the score? All of the acting is great. Oscar nominations all around. But of course, I love Robert Duvall. Peter Finch really is fantastic in this movie. You should just watch this movie for his wild performance. And he's really, in a way, a dying man in this. It's absolutely fascinating to watch him. I could just go on and on about this movie, but I'm wondering what you guys think of Network. How does it apply to today, or does it not apply? Is this a dated movie or not? It's an interesting question for me. It's almost 50 years old. Let us know in the comments. Please subscribe to this channel for more great content. Have a great day.